evening and welcome to McKenty Live. Do you think Montrealers in general take care of their pets? Why are there so many stray pets in Montreal, more than in any other city in North America? And we want to welcome our guest. In fact, we have two guests. We want to welcome our main guest this morning, Cynthia Drummond from the Montreal SPCA, and Jean for the time being.
Yes, I thought it was appropriate.
Yes. Just a word, Jean just arrived the last couple of days
at the shelter.
At the shelter, and is open, as a matter of fact, for adoption.
Available for adoption. Please do not call the switchboard at the SPCA. You must come yourself.
Okay.
I can say though that Jean has at least two other siblings, which are also available for adoption.
So, is this a time of year when a lot of people are thinking about buying pets?
Yes, it is, because it's a much easier time of year to house train a dog in particular, and you can walk them more easily. So yes, it is a time when people traditionally think about acquiring.
But are they also thinking about acquiring pets that you're not so happy about? Easter.
Oh yes, the Easter pet phenomenon has traditionally been a problem for us at the SPCA. In many municipalities, the sale of Easter pets is illegal. But we have actually sent letters to 63 other municipalities where there are no laws urging that they pass them, because we get lots of chicks and ducklings and bunnies after the Easter season, and many times they've been treated like toys because that's the way they were purchased, really. And the chicks and the ducks in particular are usually in tragic state because they take very specific nutrition. They require heat all the time in the form of a heat lamp, and of course the vendor does not tell the buyer. And besides, they're not really even cute after two or 3 days, because these are infant, newly hatched animals, birds we're talking about.
Jean is very active. So early, he's a morning dog.
Well, I think it was the coffee that I gave him before we came to the show.
Why do we have so many stray pets? The figures are incredible. We've got more stray pets in Montreal in terms of our size than any city in North America, including New York.
Well, it's a combination of many factors, but principally it's the way the city administration, and not just the new administration, but the way Montreal city administrations have viewed animal control. And that is as more or less a garbage collection service. You pick them up, you get them off the streets, and then nobody worries about what happens to them. And it was a revolving door. We were never able to get to the root of the overpopulation problem, which was, of course, resulting in people, human beings at the SPCA, having to kill thousands of unwanted pets every year, which, you know, it doesn't have to be the case. So I just got sick of doing it.
Just on those figures, to give an idea, there were 65,000 unwanted pets showed up at the SPCA last year, and 46,000 or thereabouts had to be disposed.
Correct. Correct.
All right. What do you, now of course, when they're disposed of, just briefly, how are they disposed of?
There are two ways. Puppies, kittens, and older animals that have been injured, and when the owner brings the animal in and requests it, we do a euthanasia by injection. But because of the volume of animals we receive, it's impossible to do them all that way. So we use the only other recommended method, recommended by the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, which is a carbon monoxide chamber. Animals are placed in the chamber individually and lose consciousness in a few seconds.
All right. Now, a certain percentage, of course, presumably are adopted.
Yes, we adopted nearly 13,000 animals last year from the shelter.
Okay, that went out and people took.
Correct.
All right. Now, a question before we go to the callers, and we want your calls on pets, your pets, other people's pets that maybe annoy you, and the overpopulation in Montreal of pets, 1-800-361-0300. Cynthia, I've been reading here and there about the use of pets that are found in SPCAs, perhaps, or in pounds, and instead of their being put to sleep by the thousands, Ontario has some kind of a law whereby the pets are examined by a committee and then are turned over for legitimate medical research at especially places like sick children's hospitals. Now, why couldn't that be done here?
Well, it's already being done here because the private pounds are turning over animals to research.
All right.
The situation in Ontario is exactly the same as that which we have in Quebec. The only difference is the private pounds, which are dealing to laboratories, both here in Montreal and in the United States, are not regulated legally. That's the only difference. The Toronto Humane Society, the SPCA, does not turn over its animals for research and never has, and that is the same case as with our SPCA.
Well, my question is why? Why not?
Because we don't feel that a Humane Society shelter should serve as a warehouse for providing animals for research. We feel that the role of the shelter in the society should be that it is the one place in our community where the animal always comes first. And since the research facilities have access to other supplies, we don't feel that that is our role. Also, it's been shown statistically in cities in the United States where shelters release for research, the public confidence in those shelters really does decline. And when you're a Humane Society operating a shelter and you have to do a great deal of public education, a lot of people won't listen to anything you have to say if they don't trust that you are thinking of the animal first.
We'll perhaps come back on that with our callers, and our lines are blazing. We're going to Laval. You're on McKenty Live.
Yes, my comment is that I find people leave small pets and dogs and cats in the industrial areas of the Montreal. Like my husband's been working in an industrial area in Saint Laurent, and since he's there, he's brought home a puppy, which we tried to take care of, but he was too rambunctious, and we had to give him to the SPCA. And another one, he brought home a kitten that he found was very small, and I tried to keep care of it, and it died after 2 days. It really bugs me, people who leave them in industrial areas. It's so sad, you know. They'd rather put them in an SPCA than do something like that, you know.
Comment, Cynthia, people leaving them in industrial areas?
People will dump animals wherever it is most convenient for them to do that. There are really, just when you think you've heard every story, something else happens. You know, the other day a woman came in with a litter of kittens and she'd kept the mother, and the kittens were only 2 weeks old, and i.e. they were too young for us to put in adoption. So we said, listen, can't you keep them for another 6 weeks and then we can put them directly into adoption? Otherwise we'll probably have to put them to sleep. And she said, no, they're making too much noise, and just dumped them at the counter. So we were lucky enough to find a foster home, someone to nurse the kittens until they were old enough. This goes on all day long. People really don't care.
Okay. We're going to Montreal. You're on McKenty Live.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
I want to ask you, how do you find the rating system? How honest are the people when they bring in the animals? Information that they give you?
You know, most people are basically honest. Of course, we do an evaluation on our own of every animal that is brought into us, so we find out pretty darn quickly whether the person was honest or not. Then, of course, once the animal is placed, the new owner may have some revelations of his own, too, to report back to us. So most people are honest, and those that are not, we usually are able to find out the real story.
Okay. Okay, sir. St. Adele, we're going to beautiful St. Adele. You're on McKenty Live.
Yeah, I'm personally a pet shop owner, and we have a big problem with the kitten. People bring kitten, we refuse them because we have no place. People abandon them in the hallway, in toilet shopping center, outside, at bus stop. They bring them back in the shopping center, and we get hell again because we have no place to take them. I think that the SPCA should make a big campaign. Please operate the females.
Well, people won't do it unless we need a combination of elements have to be applied in order to reduce this population problem, overpopulation problem. And there are basically 4 different things that have to go together. First of all, there's legislation. Yep. So you have to, for instance, require that cats be licensed, and that would make it a lot easier for us to locate the owners. Yep. And people whose cats were not spayed or neutered would have to pay significantly more. So that legally encourages them to have it done. Then you have to have identification of all pets. So you know how many pets you have in the community and what the demographics are and how that is changing. You have to allocate the necessary funds to do it. Yep. Then the next big one is sterilization. And you have to offer 2 people low-cost spay-neuter facilities, and that's what they do in other cities in Canada.
They would subsidize the
Yeah.
neutering, spaying clinics.
That's correct,
Yeah.
because a lot of people just can't afford to have it done.
Yeah.
And then the last one is education, and that's what we've been asking from the City of Montreal. We need them to help us. They have far greater resources than we do to help us explain to people what their responsibilities are as pet owners and why it's so necessary to have their animals sterilized.
Okay, and we will be right back with Cynthia Drummond and Jean after this short break. We're back at McKenty Live with Cynthia Drummond and with Jean, a little puppy, and we're asking your views on puppies and stray puppies and cats in Montreal, why we have so many of them, what can be done about them. Vaudroy, you're on McKenty Live.
Morning.
Morning.
I understand there are a lot of dogs and cats that are put asleep due to a lack of adoption or illnesses. In these animals, I was always curious what happens to these animals after they are put to sleep.
There's a service which the city provides to us and to veterinarians free of charge to collect the bodies of the animals. We don't pay them and they don't pay us. They just come and pick it up, and they're paid by the city, and they go to all the different veterinary clinics, and they also pick up dead animals on the street, things like that.
Is it true that there was some sort of a trafficking in the States where these animals were picked up for dog food of some sort, or is that just a myth of some sort?
No, they were being shipped across the border for research, and that continues to happen. But as far as dog food, no, I haven't heard anything of that kind.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we're going to Dollard. Yes, you're on McKenty Live. Go ahead, please, Dollard. Line 6. We're going to line 6.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
My question deals with dog owners and the City of Montreal and the lack of space for running your dog off lead. Other than the City of Westmount, there is no area where dogs are allowed to run.
Well, that's because people abused it and gave the city reason to make it illegal. And that's unfortunately something we're going to see more and more of unless people, responsible owners, get together and really make sure that everyone in their community is taking the trouble that they take in order to keep their dogs under control. It's the bozos who let their dogs run loose and never cleaned up after them and let them go in the children's playground and jump all over the kids that spoiled it for the rest of us. And unless we take, Westmount, okay, is a nice little oasis for dog owners, but there are a lot of people in Westmount, I know, I live there, who are very unhappy with the situation, and the Westmount dog runs are just covered with excrement at this time of year. It's disgusting. And as a Westmount resident, as a member of Westmount Dog Owners Association, I think we should just crack down on people who are eventually going to make it impossible for the rest of us to own dogs in the city.
Now, can't people take their dogs to Mount Royal Park and on a leash run them?
Oh, on a leash, but the gentleman's referring to taking them off leash,
Okay.
letting them
All
go.
right. Okay.
So, no, in the city of Montreal, your dog must be on a leash no
All right.
longer than 6 feet at all times.
Okay. We're going to LaSalle. You're on McKenty Live.
Hi, I want to know what restrictions you have at the SPCA to adopt an animal, because I've heard of a few people that wanted to adopt but had trouble because you didn't think they were qualified enough for.
That's right.
So sort of give us a rundown on what you have to do to adopt from the SPCA.
Well, it depends on the kind of animal you want to adopt. If you're a student and you're never home during the day and you go out a lot at night, or you're planning to go away for the summer and you want to adopt a dog, we're not going to let you have it, because our objective is always to place the animal permanently, not to have it come back, not to have it abandoned later, not to have it reproduce. Another requirement is that you have the animal spayed or neutered within 1 month if it's an adult, within 6 months if it's a puppy or a kitten. That is an absolute ironclad policy at the SPCA, because we have to, start somewhere with the problem. The adoption consultant will ask you questions about whether you realize what a lot of work owning a dog is, whether you're going to be home to walk it, whether if the animal's intended for your children, whether they're old enough to accept the responsibility. Parents who are adopting animals for their kids have to realize that if the children are little, kids are busy these days, they're going to end up doing a lot of the work. Kids aren't going to come home, running home after school, miss their extracurricular activities to take it out. So basically what we're doing is we're just making a lot of people who came to adopt, the adoptable animals, by the way, the animals in adoption are not going to be killed because we refused somebody. Like we'll keep a dog 2 months if we have to, but there are always the surplus animals that are not as healthy, or the older dogs that nobody wants. We did adopt a 10-year-old poodle though a couple of weeks ago.
Do all dogs like men's suit coats? I mean, this dog is eating me alive.
I don't know, Neil, but this one I know really likes polyester, so now we know what your jacket's made of.
Okay, we're going to the call. You're on McKenty Live.
Okay, before I got sick, we had a farm, and we've had up to 27 dogs dumped on us during the winter. People abandoning them. They weren't so cute anymore because they weren't puppies. A mother dog with 6 little babies. The eyes weren't even open in the middle of a storm. What can you do with these people?
Do you know that it's not even, well, there aren't any laws in Quebec protecting animals. The only thing we could really do would be to accuse the person of abandoning, but you can't take a case like that to court. The Crown Prosecutor is not going to prosecute a case like that. People don't take any of this seriously. Only those of us who care about the weaker members of our society, human and animal, and those who have experienced it, such as this lady with the farm. Farm owners get animals dumped on them all the time because city people have a fantasy, well, we don't want him anymore, so we'll bring him to a farm and he'll run free. Farmers have plenty of animals. They don't need yours too, so please bring them to the shelter.
Okay, we're going to Montreal. You're on McKenty Live with Cynthia Drummond.
Yes, I raise budgies, not a lot, but a few. And sometimes I do go to pet shops and see how they are being treated. Most of the time, I will find that budgies in groups, and they are scattered, and it seems like they're all crushed once against another. And they are actually suffering from not enough air, you know. And I once saw something that really disgusted me. I saw a dead bird at the bottom of the cage. Nobody was taking care of the bird. And all the birds were pecking at the one dead bird at the bottom of the cage. Now, I find that any animal and any birds are God's creatures. And I find that nutrition is very important. They're like children, they're like babies. You have to give them the love. And I wonder how come in pet shops they allow this sort of thing going on.
Well, because it's money versus animal welfare, and anytime you get into that, money always wins, because animals don't have any money and they can't vote either. So they usually come out on the short end. So it's up to people like you and me and Neil, maybe, to speak out on their behalf. Anytime you see something like that, call the SPCA, call the inspection department and register an official complaint, and we will go and investigate.
Okay, and we're going to Laval. You're on McKenty Live.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
I just would like to make a comment, having experienced. I had a dog for 5 years, and we just recently had her put down. The big problem being, didn't pick the right dog for our lifestyle. And I think I see it a lot around me. People are going out and buying dogs on whim, and they buy cats because they're cute or they're puppies, not taking into consideration that this animal is going to live with you for a very long time. And I think maybe more stress should be put on the fact to buy the right animal for your lifestyles. There's enough sorts of dogs, each with different characters, each with different habits, that maybe if people spent more time before they bought an animal, they'd keep them longer.
Well, that's what we do at the SPCA. The adoption consultant will help you choose the pet that's best suited for you and the way you live. And each dog, for instance, has a whole temperament evaluation sheet filled out. And they have a pretty good idea, the consultants do, how much exercise the puppy or the dog requires and will require, how big he or she is going to get. And because we have a pretty decent idea, too, of what different breeds of dogs went into the mix. Or we receive almost a quarter of the dogs we receive are so-called purebred animals. We know the different characteristics of the breeds. So we can help you choose. Like, for instance, a Samoyed or a Beagle for a city person is out of the question, but most people don't know.
Yeah. A couple of things you recently said about dogs. You're concerned about dangerous dogs running around and pit bulls.
Well, the pit bull problem and the dangerous dog problem those problems are the direct result of a very lax approach to animal control. Again, it all comes back to the same thing. In every case where you have a dog biting a person or another animal, it's because the owner did not keep it under control. Now, people have accused me recently of being anti-dog. That's absurd. What I'm trying to do is ensure that we can all keep our dogs in 10 years' time and still live in the city of Montreal. So I am anti-dog owner when the dog owner allows the dog to destroy people's property and attack other dogs. And the fines are so minimal that irresponsible owners will go out and do it again tomorrow because they're no deterrent.
Okay, we're going to St. Marguerite. You're on McKenty Live.
Yes, I would like to know, I've been living in the Laurentians for the last 6 months, and I'd like to know if you have an SPCA that's located in the Laurentians, or if there's one that's going to be open, and if not, if there's a similar organization, because I had a cat that I bought the SPCA last year, and since I've been here, I've picked up 2 strays, and now all 3 cats are sick. It's something that you shouldn't do is pick up a stray. Now I realize that, but if there was an organization like that, you know, people would probably call when they have strays winding up on their balcony and things like that.
There is an SPCA in the Laurentians. It's actually in St. Agathe, I believe. It's St. Marguerite or St. Agathe. If you care to call the SPCA after the show and ask for Mrs. McLean, she would be able to give you the telephone number and the name of the lady to speak to. We have a Laurentian affiliate.
And do they come and pick up the animals?
No, they do not have a dog control, but they would be able to tell you, for instance, where to bring the animal. They may come and pick it up, depending on how many they have to do. But we don't have a shelter up there per se. They shelter animals in their own homes or they bring them to cooperative vets.
Thank you, ma'am. Quick call to Lachine.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I would like to ask Ms. Drummond why they don't neuter the pets before they give them up for adoption.
We can't afford it.
You can't afford it?
No.
Don't have the budget.
No, God, no. We're $500,000 in debt this year alone trying to offer the services we do. And, you know, we really feel that to do that would bankrupt the SPCA. And besides, really, while we do offer a spay-neuter service, if you adopt from us, then all you have to do, if you cannot afford to go to your own veterinarian, and this is only for people who have adopted from us, you bring the animal back and we retain the spay-neuter deposit we charged you when you adopted the dog or the cat, and we do it at the shelter.
Okay, and we'll be right back after this short break. I want to thank Cynthia Drummond for being with us this morning and bringing Jean, who's so well behaved. Tomorrow on McKenty Live, what's it like to live with cancer? Our guest, Jean Cameron. See you tomorrow at 10.
Neil McKenty's wardrobe provided exclusively by Henry Marks on Drummond Street and Westmount Square.
For smooth, soft skin all over, the people who brought you Nivea Facial Cream bring you new Nivea Moisturizing Lotion for your whole body.